my husband was transferred to Morris, Illinois from his job. And so we moved with our younger children. We had to leave the older ones behind because they were married and had started their own lives. We had, at that time in Morris, a thing called a welcome wagon. And the welcome wagon lady came to the homes of the new people who had moved in. And she came to my home and she had a basket filled with flyers from the different stores telling you where the local Walgreens were, the local grocery store, clothing stores. But there was also a paper in there that talked about a group called We Care. It was a volunteer group and they were needing volunteers. And it just kind of caught my eye because I had 3 children here with me, but all 3 would be in school. I knew I'd be in the house all the time. So it seemed just a normal thing for me to volunteer, not knowing quite what I was volunteering for. And you answered the phone in your own home, and they gave you a list of the steering committee people you could call, and you simply responded to the need that the person had on the other side. And when I talked to people who needed transportation, I pulled out my sheet that said transportation volunteers, and I started at the beginning and called through the list to see if they could give them transportation. Transportation was only given to local medical facilities. As time progressed, I found that there were more and more needs. I was part of the steering committee within a year, and then learned more about how this organization worked. And I was shocked because it was rather fly-by-night. They didn't meet but once a year. There was so much potential there, and it would seem that there were needs. People needed rides to hospitals and doctors, and there was no bus line. Having come from a city where, of course, all those things were, I thought, my gracious, they need these things. And so I became more and more interested, and I had more and more time because I didn't have any children to look over during the day, and most of this happened during the day. So I was free to do those things. In 1975, they elected the new priest that had just come into town. His name was Father Hart. He was young, and he was with Immaculate Conception Church. I am not Catholic, but he contacted me after the steering committee meeting and asked if I would be his secretary. And I said, Father, I'm not Catholic. And he said, oh, no, I don't mean for the church. I mean for We Care. We Care. Oh, I remember now. And that's how I got involved with Father Hart. And we talked about how, boy, there's such potential. So many things could be, this would really work. And so, because he was a very good organizer, I was an organizer, we just clicked. We worked well together. I spent a lot of time in that Catholic church meeting with him and him at my home. My kids all knew Father Hart because they'd come home for lunch and Father Hart would be there. There was a building, I don't know what the building was for, but they kept food in it and made it a pantry. So when people needed food, one of the members of the We Care steering committee could go in that pantry and get them food. We went in that pantry. I'm 4 foot, well, at the time I was 4'11". I don't know how tall he was, maybe 5'2". We were both short people. Maybe he was 5'5". I have no idea. We went into this building and we're trying to reach the shelves, and neither one of us could reach the shelves. So we were standing on stools trying to see where this food was located. And there were bugs, and it was horrible. And there's no way ever I would give food from that pantry to any person. And so between the two of us, we cleared it all out and threw it all away and thought, we got to do something. And that's how we started with the food business. I don't remember if it was 76, I think it was the next year, Father Hart was transferred to another church. And so there I was. And so I suddenly became the president. Not the executive director and not the administrator and all the other names that were used after that, just in charge. I went to city councils. I spoke at all of these places and explained what We Care was, what we do, and to explain that everybody that works for We Care was a volunteer. We went to all these organizations. I did. I shouldn't say we because I was alone. I went to all these organizations many times at night, which wasn't frightening. I drove my car all over this county, and then I began to get calls from people that lived in Mazan or outside of Morris. And it dawned on me that, wait a minute, this is Grundy County I'm living in. I think we should extend and expand and be a Grundy County organization. And then one day I went to one of the meetings, whether it was the Rotary or which one it was, and one of the gentlemen said to me, why do you do this? And I said, well, first of all, we need money. So every time I would come and speak, they would give me maybe $400, $300, $500, and that would be put into our pot. And he said, well, why don't you just go to the United Fund? What? United Fund? What's that? Well, then I remembered it was the Community Fund at that time. They had the red feather.
The red feather,
and I knew it because my husband donated to it every paycheck. And I said, what have they got to do with it? Well, they can help you. How can they help me? They can help your organization. As long as you're incorporated, it's not a problem. Whoops. As long as you're what? Incorporated. Okay. About that time, I lost my daughter. And having gone through the funeral, and it was a hard time for me. And my husband, shortly after that funeral and all the things that had to be done, we came back to Morris, and he said, I have to go to Wisconsin for some supervisory training, and I want you to come. And I said, I can't come. I've got 3 children here. He said, they're not little children anymore. They're not? No, they're not. Your son is in high school. He's a senior. Well, yeah, I guess he is. And so we left on a Friday night while they were still in school. Then we stayed Friday night and Saturday, and then we came home Sunday. But during that time, while my husband was getting his training, Shirley went into the library at the University of Wisconsin and used their books and got all the information she could on becoming incorporated. And I took minutes and notes all over the place. And when I came home, the first thing I had been, when I first moved here, I was so interested in the things that happened. And this was a beautiful little city that was growing right before my eyes, and there were so many things available, and it was such a beautiful area. And I thought, I should go to these meetings. So I walked. I lived where Jewel's store is. I lived in that area, and I walked into town every day. I went to the meetings for the city meetings, the city hall, did all the things that normal people do, but for me it was walk, but I never thought anything about it because I was used to walking. And so going to the city hall, I listened to what they said, and I found out that they had a lawyer on their board, Mr. Peacock, James Peacock. And so once the meeting was over, I approached him and said, Mr. Peacock, could I speak with you? And he said, what is it? I introduced myself and told him about We Care, and I said, I need to have it become incorporated. How do I do that? And he said, do you have any ideas of what you need? And I showed him all my minutes, and he said, oh, he said, you know what? I can not only help you, I can do it pro bono. And I didn't know what pro bono meant, but I found out real quick that it didn't cost me anything. And that man did all the work to get We Care incorporated. And a lot of people don't have any idea of how much work is involved. I know how much work is involved. I know how much he did. Got it all for us, and never, ever charged us anything. And so then, at that time, he said, what is the name? It's just We Care. And I said, no, it was We Care of Grundy County Incorporated. It's just down to earth people that care. It's that same word again, care. Care can't get out of it. And as we open up in our lives, we hopefully reach out to others and give them the same hope so that they can grow. If we don't do that, the world is lost. It comes right down to everyday person, every guy and every girl. I've met some amazing people. I've gone to the prisons and the jails, seen young people so young with their lives ahead of them, and will they come out? Most of those that I did see did come out. I think We Care is a symbol for a lot of people, but I can do better. I can get a house. I can bring my family in a house. I can put a roof over my children's head. I can feed them and clothe them. I can do that. And I'm just a nobody, but I can do it. I think that's amazing if you can do that. And you use the word hope. I think that's a good word. You give them the hope that they can do that. And I think We Care is doing all those things. That was my dream